Hey all, welcome to this section of the course. In this section, we'll be installing Selenium and we'll be going over Python packages. So with that, let's get started. So a quick agenda for this section. You might have heard a lot of people say Python is a open source language. I'm going to cover what exactly that means. We're also going to go over what is Selenium, and then we're going to go ahead and install Selenium. So, overview of open source software. So, you might have heard a lot of people say that, hey, Python is an open source software, or hey, this XYZ is an open source software, or this is an open source language. What exactly does that mean? So, to explain that, I've given a bit of an example here. Let's say you have two people, you have Adam and you have Jasmine. Now, Adam writes some code which led to add numbers. He packages this code into a Python library called add. Now, at the same time, Jasmine writes some code which led to subtract numbers, and she packages this up into a Python library and she calls it subtract. They both go through a process, and now those packages, add and subtract, are now available in Python and available for a Python user to install and use. So you would using pip, which is Python's package manager. You can install Adam's package, which is add, and you can install Jasmine's package, which is subtract. You can install it on your computer and use it. So you actually did not have to, write your own code to add and subtract numbers. You can basically, use the library that's already been written by somebody else to do that. So that's I'm going to take a minute to kind of emphasize on the power of that. That means that, somebody out there can write some code which is fairly generic and you can use it into your own processes and stuff. You don't have to start from scratch again. And once you install this code on your computer, you can also see the actual code that they wrote. And here's the name why it's called open source. Because in this particular example, you'd actually be able to see Adam's and Jasmine's code within your computer. So that's basically what open source means, and it's really powerful because a lot of people can contribute to the code base. And especially with Python, you have a lot of packages out there with a lot of different functionality, so it's really easy to do a lot of different things with very little code that you write on your own. So now let's go into what is Selenium. So Selenium is a package that someone has written out there that lets you automate web browser interaction. It's used a lot for testing purposes, like testing websites and stuff. And you need a WebDriver in order to use it. We'll be using the Google Chrome WebDriver, which we'll discuss in the next section. So how do we install Selenium? So you simply do a pip install. Again, pip is your Python package manager. So you would use pip to install any external packages that you want to install. So you simply go to your command prompt and you type in pip install Selenium, enter, and that will install Selenium on your computer. So let me go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go over to my command prompt. Bring this guy over here, and I'm going to type in pip install Selenium. So it looks like I already had Selenium installed, but you guys, when you guys do this, you guys should see like an installation. It shouldn't last very long, but that's kind of how it would go. So what exactly does this mean? Like, hey, I run a command called pip install Selenium. What exactly does that do? So to do that, it's going to give you like a path, and I'm going to take you guys to that path on my computer. So just bear with me just a second. So here's the path on my computer, and I'll pull it up. So this is the version of Python that I most recently installed. I'm gonna go to the library. This is where all the packages are, and I'm gonna go into site packages. This is where all your external packages are downloaded. So basically, when you do the pip install Selenium, and once it installs Selenium, you can see that, hey, on 6/14/2020, I downloaded this library, and this wasn't there before 6/14. So, and from that, I can see that, hey, I have some code within it and whatnot. So let's say that we wanted to use this code. You would simply do something along the lines of this. So I'm going to go ahead and open my Jupyter Notebook, which I do by going to the command prompt and typing in Jupyter Notebook. And I'm going to go to my desktop and I'm going to create a new Python file. And I'm going to name this using Selenium. Okay, so if I wanted to use, if I wanted to, any package that I want to use and within this particular code that I'm writing, the way I would go about it is I would do something like, from Selenium import. So let's see. I can, in my Selenium package, I have two things. I have WebDriver and I have common. So this is basically like a representation of that. So I'm going to go to from Selenium import WebDriver. And now I can use this entire code base in this particular script that I'm writing. So let's look at WebDriver for a second. So, I can do WebDriver.tab, and that will actually display, like, all of these options that I have when I hit WebDriver.tab. They basically represent all of the different folders within it which contain different code operations. So there is a folder for Chrome, there's a folder for Firefox, so on and so forth. So that basically is an overview of like how Python packages work, and like a representation of like, hey, this is the package in my compute on my machine, and how you interact with it on, like, when you're using it. So one other thing that I want to show here is that when I import a package, I can call it anything I want. So let's say that from Selenium I import WebDriver and I call WebDriver WD. So now if I do WD.tab, I can essentially see the same code, because like Python basically assumes that WD refers to WebDriver, which refers to this particular folder right here, which has these subfolders within them. So that's kind of an example of Python packages and how they work. I hope, this is something that, if you are, like, once you get further into your Python journey, this is something that I wish I knew earlier, how these packages were working. So, I hope you have a better understanding of open source and how open source packages work within Python. And I hope you were able to install your Selenium package as well. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys at the next section.